Thank you so much for tuning into Car and Bike once again. My name is Shams. One of the most exciting cars to hit the Indian roads this year has to be the Volkswagen Golf GTi. Comes with a big, powerful petrol engine and delivers a lot of thrill. Well, those who have driven it swear by it. Those who haven't, they really want to drive it. But things are changing, the world is changing, and now you have alternate ways of delivering peak performance. For example, the BYD Seal, and especially its top-of-the-line performance variant, which has all-wheel drive, much more powerful, much more quicker. And interestingly, both these cars are quite similarly priced. So if you're looking for peak performance in this price range, 50 to 60 lakh rupees, which one of these two is likely to satiate the needs of a performance enthusiast within you in a much better way? That's the big question. And let's quickly hit the road.
Two vastly different ways of having fun while being behind the wheel. The Volkswagen Golf GTi is an icon in itself, and such is the popularity of this one that all 150 units got sold out when bookings opened in India earlier this year. On the other hand, BYD is challenging the norms the world over with its cars when it comes to luxury, performance and affordability. The beauty is that you can buy both these cars right here in India at roughly the same price.
So getting straight into driving both these cars, and I've started with the newer set of wheels, the Volkswagen Golf GTi. But before we tell you all about the drivability and the performance of both these cars, if you still haven't subscribed to Car and Bike, request you to please do it right now and also press the bell icon so that we can get you all the latest from the world of Indian auto right here. Now, a car that roughly weighs around 1400 kgs, running on a 2-liter 4-cylinder powerful petrol engine. So maximum power crosses 260 bhp and 370 Nm of peak torque, which kicks in quite early at around 1600 rpm, and that makes a lot of a difference in this car. The 7-speed dual clutch gearbox, of course, no complaints about that unit. It does wonders in many cars from Volkswagen. Does the same on the Golf GTi as well. It is again very responsive. And of course, you also have things like a sport mode or paddle shifters here. And that is something that really increases the drive quotient on a car like this. So switch to manual mode, take controls in your hands and have a bit more fun than what's already being offered to you on a car like this.
However, enthusiasts may not like the fact that the hatch does not get a proper manual transmission option, because that is one thing they would want to experience on a performance-oriented car. It will still go fast though.
Now, earlier this year when this car was launched, it created a national speed record. Now this one crossed a maximum speed of 250 km per hour on the Natrax test track in Indore, and that is quite a number. Easily one of the fastest in India, if not the fastest. I am driving on the Delhi-Mumbai Expressway, cannot cross 120, but I reached there in a flash. It doesn't take too much time. This car is seriously quick. As a driver, this car really makes you feel very involved. It's not a very silent cabin, and you like that on a car like this because you want to hear the grunt of the engine and the throaty sound of the exhaust note, and both are quite audible inside the cabin of this Golf GTi. I won't really bother about fuel efficiency on this car because when you're buying a car like the Golf GTi, your focus is more on performance. But let me give you an idea. Now, we've been driving this car all day and it is giving us an average efficiency of 11 km per litre. Not bad at all. Now, a full tank of around 45 litres, in one full tank the car will go for approximately 450 to 500 kilometers. Again, not bad if you're out on a long distance journey, because right now the comparison is also somewhat between this and the BYD Seal. So on one full tank, you can go for that much distance.
This is in the same range as many compact SUVs driven for everyday use. So if fuel efficiency concerns you, this hot hatch isn't too bad. Over to Seal, and that switch from ICE to EV does make you sit up and take notice.
Now you have to get used to this, especially if you hop into an EV directly after driving a car like the Volkswagen Golf GTi. Now all you hear is sound of other vehicles around you and not your own vehicle, which is absolutely opposite to what the experience was in the Golf GTi. You are hearing your own car and enjoying the music and the sound of that one. But in terms of numbers, this car is seriously quick, and this, as I said, is the top of the line performance variant. This is an all-wheel drive setup, dual motors, and a big 82.5 kilowatt hour battery on this one, which means you get a power of more than 500 bhp and a peak torque of almost 700 newton meters. Now, it's unfair to compare it to the Golf, but the numbers are almost double both bhp as well as torque. That's not all. 0 to 100 much quicker, under 4 seconds. It's proudly displayed on the rear of the car. 3.8 seconds is all it takes for the BYD Seal in this top performance trim to reach the speed of 100 from 0. Now there is a sport mode here which sort of increases the response from the setup, but on an EV what you do miss are paddle shifts, so things are not so much in your control because EVs even now are skewed more towards giving you better range than giving you outright performance. So here as well, the claimed range on this top trim is around 550 kilometers, and then all the region modes and the drive modes come to your aid. So in case you're running out of battery, you can choose the right mode and extend drivability of the vehicle.
The performance trim though can go for long and go fast. The curb weight is around 2000 kgs and that still doesn't affect the quick acceleration. The almost 5 meter length though means the rear end may not be in your complete control in certain sporty moments.
Also the footprint, it's a much longer car than the Golf, for example, so maneuvering it through traffic or maybe changing lanes at high speeds may not be as agile as something like Golf is. It's not about EVs or ICE cars, it's about the footprint of the car, and you just have to deal with a bigger car and manage a bigger car in the road conditions.
On a straight line, the Seal performance will race much ahead of the Golf within no time, but maneuverability is also key and can make a huge difference. And this is one of the biggest traits of this hot hatch.
So ride quality, you want a stiff ride quality from this car, and that is what the Golf GTi gives you, because it runs on those big 18-inch wheels and low profile tires, and they contribute to you having a stiff ride on this car, and I will not have any other way in a car like this. And then comes handling, extremely critical, and the dimensions really help here. Not very big, small footprint of the car, low ground clearance, low center of gravity, everything that you want from a car of this nature, this car gives you that. Changing lanes, taking corners at high speeds, none of that is a problem in a car like this.
VW has ensured a good combo of old and new, even when it comes to dynamics on the Golf GTi. Now this is no Golf R, but still gets enough character to ensure that not everything is automated and a lot depends on driver inputs.
And of course you also have what Volkswagen calls as the XDS, or the electronic front differential on this car, and really helps while cornering. A lot of things happen all together, increases friction and stability all at one go. So what it does is that it gives more braking to the inside wheel and more power to the outside wheel, which means you can take two corners at a much faster speed. Also helps in reducing the understeer on this car, thereby making it more safer for you. But that's not all. What also helps is the brilliant feedback you get from the steering wheel. It is absolutely perfect. It's so apt. It just follows the directions you give it with absolute preciseness, and it is progressive, which means one turn and you're done with the complete turn of the car. That really helps, especially in more traffic situations, not so much on the highway, but it's a very useful and practical feature on the car.
Once again, the switch to EV is noticeable, with the dynamics changing considerably.
Now the Seal has always been a tech-heavy car, and it's improving with every avatar. In its latest version, it's got something called a sandwich battery setup, which means the battery is integrated directly into the chassis of the vehicle, and which has resulted in a car that's much more agile and safer as well, according to BYD. Even the battery life, according to BYD, has increased. So even the newer batteries now come with a lifespan of 15 years, which for most cars in India is the actual life of the car. So the battery will last as long as the car, and there will not be a need to replace the batteries at around 7 or 8 year mark.
The driving torque of the front and rear axles can be adjusted, which helps in better dynamics, and a low drag coefficient of 0.219 also plays its part.
Now on the top trim of the BYD Seal, you also get adaptive suspension. Wasn't there on the car earlier, but now the brand offers the car with that feature.
So on smooth roads, the ride becomes a little stiffer, while on uneven surfaces, it becomes quite soft. And therefore the system adapts well to the varied conditions around you.
The steering a little on the heavier side, not to my liking. It requires a bit more effort to use this car and could be a little lighter, especially looking at the fact that this one is an EV.
But what about ground clearance, especially in India, where the nature of roads keeps changing all the time? The Seal has a small 10mm advantage here, but in the end, you do need to be careful with both these cars.
Now sometimes you may not be as lucky as me. Right now the charging point is empty, so let's quickly recharge the car.
Once you find a charging port, 0 to 80% fast charge is done in around 45 minutes on the new Blade battery. But depending on how much of the drive is remaining, you may not always need a full charge while on the move. The sedan is also fairly loaded when it comes to safety and also has a 5-star crash test rating from Euro NCAP.
But safety, there's no compromise on the Seal. You have a heads-up display, you have as many as 9 airbags, and again a whole lot of level 2 ADAS functions that are out there to make your drive safer. However, I think I found the ADAS functions on the Golf a little more intrusive. I think that's a little more safer looking at our road conditions.
The Golf GTi too has similar crash test rating but doesn't get as many airbags or ADAS functions, though independently the numbers are quite acceptable. So that was the drive, but now let's change tracks to see just how practical and feature-rich these cars are.
Scale paper plate seats with red accents in the Golf GTi. Rather old school, but as a petrol head, I really love them. And with the integrated headrest, they look even cooler, especially in a car of this nature. Now the good thing is that the cabin is a mix of both old and new. So what you have here is a big 12.9-inch touchscreen. We've seen this before also in other cars from the brand, and it is quite nice. Gives you wireless connectivity, a lot of features, and is extremely clear to use and feel. Even in bright sunshine, this screen gives you amazing level of clarity. But what I don't like is the fact that the number of physical buttons are going down, and maybe Volkswagen needs to have a relook at that across its range.
Metal pedals, illuminated lighting, heated steering and a wireless charger are some more features that make the cabin both premium and sporty at the same time. But is it any match for the cabin of the Seal?
Inside the Seal, both the screens, the 10.25-inch cluster as well as the massive 15.6-inch touchscreen are not as readable, especially in bright sunlight, as is the case right now. But the good thing is that, of course, as I said, this is bigger and comes with more features, and the nice part, of course, is the fact that at the press of a button, it rotates, becomes from a portrait to landscape, and then back to the original shape if you want it to be like that. But this is a cabin that gets more number of features. The seats, for example, are electric, ventilated as well as heated. In the Golf, you only get heated seats. Other two features are missing. You get twin wireless chargers here, and the roof is much bigger. Although you can't open this one, in the Golf you can open your single pane sunroof. In terms of comfort, I like these seats. You can probably spend longer time here while driving the car, and overall the cabin here feels quite ergonomic.
However, lack of physical buttons is something that may not be appreciated by many buyers. The close to 3-meter long wheelbase is a boon for the Seal when it comes to practicality, and a lot of space is reserved for the back row.
Now a car that's close to 5 meters long definitely will have more space on the second row. So I am 6 feet tall and I am feeling more comfortable sitting here. And the thigh support also is quite nice here in the BYD Seal. I also love the recline angle of the seats, it's quite nice. And overall, this big panoramic roof really helps in the airy feeling. However, I would have liked the windows to be a little bigger. They feel small for a car of this size and proportion.
The big question is the Golf second row usable enough?
Now, the Golf GTi is roughly 4.3 meters long, which means approximately the length of a Creta, and this is how the second row is in the car. It isn't great, but it isn't bad too, looking at the overall length of this car. Sitting quite comfortably here. The seats are rather big and headroom also is decent, which I like. But the best part, this car has got 3-zone climate control, so even on the rear seat you have your individual controls for the air conditioner.
And then comes the boot space. For a hot hatch, 380 liters isn't bad at all on the Golf, but for a sedan, 400 liters feels a bit less on the Seal. It has a 50-liter frunk though. how do you want your performance car to look like? A hatch with a smaller footprint or a larger sedan? The Golf clearly has a more aggressive stance and it's sort of hard for the Seal to match that. The EV runs on 19-inch alloys that look beautiful but probably not as much as the ones seen on the Golf. So how similar are the prices? The Golf is priced at 51 lakh rupees ex-showroom, while the Seal Performance will set you back by 53.15 lakh rupees ex-showroom. But the difference gets reduced when it comes to on-road prices owing to EVs attracting lower taxes and registration fees in some state.
You know what's the beauty of these two cars right here? Let's start with the BYD Seal. Now this one has the power and capability to convert you into an EV fan even if you are an ICE loyalist. But if there's one car that will convince you to stay put, it is the Golf GTi. Now if you are a petrol head, it is very difficult to bypass this one. Doesn't matter which car it is standing next to. And right now I am also sort of falling into this group. But you tell me, if you're in the market to buy a car between 50 and 60 lakh rupees, what is the kind of car you'll be looking at? If it is one of these two, which one of these two will you choose? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching.